welcome to the Fierce Awakenings 1111 Masterclass. And say hello, everybody. We're going to go around the room and introduce the co-authors who are here today. We are guiding from our bestseller book, Fierce Awakenings, Amazon bestseller that was released in September of 2023. And we're going to use this as a way to map our spiral path and a way to reflect on how far we've come and begin to see the bridge between the fear that often holds us back and the courage that it takes to keep walking forward. I'll kick us off with the intro, and then we'll go around the room, and each of my co-authors will introduce themselves as we go, and we'll give you a little overview of where we're going to go. But there's some surprise embedded in all of this because we're on a spiral path. We don't always see what's right around the curve. So to just get started, I'm Jen Balco. I'm the founder of Always On My Way, and I was the lead author for Fierce Awakenings, a collaborative book, a collaborative anthology where we are calling in courage and confidence to walk life's spiral path. What I desire most for you in this masterclass is that you look back on your own footprints of life, see your significant milestones and the choice points that led you here, and begin to see and illuminate a little flicker of an idea of where you're going next. And now I'm going to pass it over to Sarah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Hoskin. I am an author and the author of the first chapter of Fierce Awakenings, actually called The Spiral Path. I am a guide on the spiral path, both in terms of leading you on a walking journey, but also on an inner journey with that. And I'm actually in the process of becoming a facilitator of a profound body of work called the Venus Portals, which is a journey that will take you into the center of the center of the center of the spiral path. I'm so happy to be here.
We're going a little bit in chapter order, so then Joanna will go next.
Hi, I am Joanna Winstuckle. I am an artist, author, and business owner of Beautifully Chaotic Mystics. And my chapter is called The Sacred Pause, chapter 3. And my desire for you in this is for you to believe that you are a powerful being who has the infinite potential to choose into. We're going to do some choosing today. I'm excited about that.
And can we come back, since I forgot to say that what I desire piece? I just completely forgot that. Do we mind?
No, come back, Sarah.
Okay. So what I desire for all of you who are participating in this class is to really know and feel that you are always held in the spiral path, that it's always there for you, and that in each and every moment, the path guides, loves, guides, provides, and protects you. And when you choose to operate from that place, what else becomes possible for you? How can you trust the journey that you're on and know that you are always held in love as you take the next step?
Yes, I forgot to cue you on what you desire. Thanks for coming back. And then we're going to Wendy.
Hello, I'm Wendy Peterman, and I am a scientist for the U.S. Forest Service, and I have a multimedia art project for sharing my time in nature called Forests of the Soul. And my desire for you during this masterclass is for you to embrace the discomfort of change that brings growth.
Yeah, and I'm going to mention now this, if you have any of your magic wands around, we'll do this throughout the sessions a little bit, but there's going to be a lot of nuggets and wisdom here. So take a moment to grab a pen and paper. We're going to start an exercise before we jump into the book. And I'll mention that I'm the last chapter of, I'm the chapter 12. So we're going to go in a little bit of chapter order through the book. For those of you in the room, you already have the book. And for those of you watching, the book is our guide point. It is our compass through today's journey, but we're also creating a parallel journey that's really going to be unique and seasonally aligned. So we're going through each chapter and we're going to pick some different points and key points that feel really important right now. And let's just ground ourselves in there for a moment and feeling into the season that we're in. For most of us, for all of us on the call right now, we are in the Northern Hemisphere. This, of course, applies for those also in the Southern Hemisphere. We are in the middle of our calendar season, right? For us here, it's the middle of fall. Summer is clearly pretty much gone. Winter is coming. For those in the Southern Hemisphere, you're right in that cusp of, yeah, it's spring and winter is gone and you're starting to feel the warmth of summer, but there's definitely a seasonal pull right now. We're on 11/11. This is a magic spirit number for angels and for manifesting and for getting clarity. But in the fall season, we are pruning away what's no longer needed. We're resting, we're moving with intention, but not actually perhaps moving with the activity of it yet. So we're right in this wondrous moment in Scorpio too, where we're invited to investigate our lives. We're invited to dip in and reflect and feel the strength of that. Instead of being afraid of it, feeling right now the strength of the fall, watching, just kind of looking back over your shoulder a little bit and looking at where you were in January or last October or last November, and already the cycle that's already come through for you. So that's how we're kind of starting with that and grounding into this idea that we are in the most divine moment. Today is considered one of the luckiest days of the year. So it seems serendipitous that we're going to work with this energy now. And the book is called Fierce Awakenings. So we're gonna put in our fierce, put a little bit of our fierce hats on and walk ourselves with courage and confidence and name what has been motivating us and notice where those choice points have been for us. So before I get started, I just want to ask my co-authors if they have anything to add about the seasonal alignment aspect of the direction we're going in today.
For me, it's a perfect time to, I had such a very intense summer, and winter gets to be where the days are so short, and it's actually, rather than my forest being on fire, it's under snow. And so it's a real time to be intentional about reflecting on the year and the choices that I made and the choices that I'm going to make when the sun comes back out and everything thaws.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd like to add to that. What I realized is, as you were talking about that, Jen, is I've actually, for the past few falls, had big movement in the early fall out of summer. And then right about this time of year, everything does seem to quiet down. And I get to have that more reflective time of looking back and going, oh, like these last couple of months, I've made some big movement. And now it's about integrating that, taking it into winter, just like you said, Wendy, so that when the sun does come back out and it's time to birth something new, it's deeply integrated into my being. So I want to add that.
And then I'll add here, this fall time, it's a time of harvesting what we planted before, but not only that, but also picking the seeds for the journey to come, in the spring. So really looking at, celebrating all that we have gained in this year, and then maybe looking at what needs to maybe be transplanted, or what is the newness that is going to come. And we're not rushing on any of that newness. Like, we're still at the seed point. We're still at that place of, oh, okay, we're going to do continuation of whatever dream that we might have planted earlier in the year. Some things take longer than a year to come to fruition. So the book, that I was surprised it took a year. I thought it was going to take way longer. But here we are as the authors, looking to what we want to do with the book, and we are grateful for you all to be here on this journey as we are playing and practicing what we want to use this book for. Thank you.
With that wisdom, grab your pen and paper. You can, if you're using some sort of notebook, I'm going to actually do it in my sketchbook because I'm going to make it an art project for myself. But grab a pen and paper. I'm going to leave us still on gallery mode like this. And then as we move into the chapters, I'll pin us individually so that we can have the focus. I'm going to put on just a small song as we go. But right now, and right before we picked, we started the call and we were in group together, I picked for us, or what fell out actually, it picked us from Colette Baron Reed's The Dreamweavers deck, was number 18, What the Sunbeams Have to Show Us. And that's a little bit of the energy, even as the fall energy and the fall sun is different and shorter now. We're going to work with this energy of where we're going to shine a light. And pick up your pen and paper, markers, crayons, however you want to do this. You could journal it, you could mind map it. I'm going to do it a little bit as a mind map. Joanne has already started something different that she's going to track the gems from chapter to chapter. Right, so some of the way to think of where we're going today a little bit, and I'll give you a little cue there, is we're stringing together our pearl necklace or our gems, or we're putting our gems on our queen's crowns. However you want to see this, it might be a mind map, but we're going to collect some cosmic breadcrumbs as we go. So begin to just think of where you are now. Okay, physically perhaps, but more allowing yourself to drop into the idea of where you are emotionally right now. Where are you in your life? And just putting a couple keywords around this. I'm going to call up, just going to put some music on while we think about this. And then however you want to do this on your piece of paper, just put like a keyword, what feels true now? And if you can just tell me if you hear the music. Yeah, okay. So just take like a minute and a half to express in any way that it's coming out to you right now, where you are right now. What choice point do you feel like you're at? Kind of first thought, best thought. Trying not to overthink it, and really activate more of an intuitive quality to it. Another 30 seconds or so to just tune in, dropping in your awareness. We're going to talk a lot today about noticing and awareness. And just even noticing how you feel writing this down. I'm at an inflection point myself, trying to figure out exactly what I want to offer and teach and guide. And there is a little bit of fear in there, for sure. Fear that it's going to fail. I'm just going to start naming that and noticing what's present when I write this. Doesn't have to be all rainbows and unicorns, you know. We're all in a different place. And then as you're kind of letting yourself wander with this idea, begin to dive. Hold on, I see my mic just popped off. Notice significant defining moments in your life. Just a handful. Just a handful. Just to see where you've been. This is a look over your shoulder. 3 to 5 significant milestones that seemed like important choice points to you. These may be things that you put on your resume. They may be important life moments. They may not be anything that you put on your resume at all, but you knew the moment you stepped into that space, your world changed. Your view changed, your perspective changed. And put those anywhere you want on the page. Kind of like a mind map. Just, they may be connected to each other, they may not be. At this moment, it doesn't matter. Just allowing yourself to drop in, to think. You probably have many. You know, we've lived a full and rich life, all of us. So what are those 3 significant movements, milestones, defining moments, something that you would call a defining moment? Take another minute or 2 in silence, kind of just listening to the wind that whispers to you. And then just putting it aside. You're done, and when that feels like you have the first couple gems to work with, just cast it aside, and we're going to start moving through the chapters. You'll have opportunities to come back to this all along the way. But for now, I'm going to unpin us, and Sarah, you're going to lead us through chapter 1. Hold on for 1 second. Let me get you pinned up there. Oh, hold on. All right, Sarah, when you're ready.
Okay. So I just want to start by sharing that I'm right at a point where 1 octave of my spiral path is completing, and I'm literally poised to step into the next octave. And I think that's a really important piece to remember about a spiral, is that it's infinite, and it's not just horizontal, but it's also multidimensional. And I want to start my sharing with that because I'm also in a little bit of a wonky place. I'm not fully grounded. I literally just got back from a life-changing trip yesterday, And so I'm bringing in that energy of, Wendy, what you talked to about having the courage to be uncomfortable, to not show up all polished, have it all together. Because for any of you who have been through transitions in your life, you know that transition isn't always straightforward and easy. There's a wah that can go along. So I'm in that right now. So I just wanted to speak to that. And also what I'd like to do is I'm going to come to the pearl of my chapter after I read the piece I'm going to read. I tend to work best by going from the outside of the spiral and coming into it. So I'm going to get there with the pearl, but I'm going to start with the chapter that really, the paragraph that really stood out to me as I was reviewing my chapter. Unaware at the time, I was literally called off the acceptable, tried and true pilgrimage path. For several more years, I tried to stay on the linear path and head east to walk toward the predetermined destination. Each time, however, I would be called back to walk the same initial miles of the Mary Michael Way. It felt like I was magnetically pulled back to this small, specific area of land with its public footpaths and sacred sites, as though I was meant to walk here and only here. I could only go so far east before the paths curved back around on themselves, bringing me back to Alia Well. Ah, the magic and the mystery of the spiral path. And I feel like that's a really good place that I want to start and to offer to you, is that I know I have lived life trying to have a destination, thinking that like how to do things normally, how to set my life up. And from my own experience, what I will say is we may have a really good idea and a really good plan. But I believe our soul, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it for yourself, has usually a different idea, a different plan. And what I'm really accepting is a way better plan. And so the more we can surrender to the pull of our own individual spiral path, the more aligned our lives become, and actually the more flow and grace and ease there can be. Even with those initial resistances of, I don't want to step off this path that I'm in. And I'll share from my experience. I'm 64, I'll be 65 in a few months. And I've stepped out of a 36-year marriage. I'm letting go of a lot of the comfortable structures I had in place. And as I try to do things in a more traditional, normal way, and not to say you have to give those things up. I did. And so it's having that courage where, and this is the piece I want to talk about here, is that I was scared to give that up for a long time. So I was over here in fear. And I'm really now just stepping into that place of confidence. And so inviting yourself to say, what is it that pulls you? What is it that maybe you think about, feel so much, and you may not even give yourself the credit of how much of your energy is going towards something. But if you could just pause and take a moment, say, what's calling my attention? What's calling my energy? If money weren't an object, if family weren't an object, if all my reasons of not to do something were no longer sufficient to stay in the way, what would I do? What would I choose? What's that magnet that is literally trying to pull you onto your unique, soul-guided, soul-sourced spiral path? And then from that place, taking those first steps. And the first steps could be letting go of that which no longer serves. It could be just acknowledging that you have this desire deep in your being that is actually calling on you to be created through you and only you. So as I'm spiraling around, I guess what I want to come back to is that core center of the center spiral of the center of the spiral desire, which is a holy desire, a sacred desire, working really hard to get your attention. Because I believe we all have that. And I guess I have this lofty, maybe very idealistic belief that if we actually all lived our lives according to that and created what we're here to create, we would have peace on earth. We would have joy and love, because all of those would just be working together to create heaven here on earth. So that for me is the invitation from the spiral path.
Thank you, Sarah. Take a minute now to just add whatever came up for you. This gem, this invitation. What's pulling you now? Coming back to this page where you started to write, and what is the gem that feels important to you now? First thought, best thought. Another 30 seconds. Allow yourself to be quiet, listening. Throughout this entire masterclass, it's whatever you see, hear, sense, feel, know, trust, wherever you want to explore. And then we're going to move, as you're writing your last words there, we're going to move to chapter 2. Chapter 2 is The Journey to Wholeness by Shauna Burkholder. And I'm going to do a little bit of what Sarah did there, is kind of work backwards, back into the core of the main points that Shauna's chapter really sparked for me. And I remember the first time I read this as the lead author. I read this very early on, months and months ago, and it's has stuck in my head the entire year of 2023. The idea to travel came when I read this statistic in a long forgotten blog post. The average adventure traveler is no longer a 28-year-old male, but a 47-year-old female, and she wears a size 12 dress. The chapters that I'm going to be working on are chapters where we kind of fling ourselves out into the world and why we do that. And in Shauna's chapter, Shauna made a very big leap of quitting her job. Her grandmother had died. She was a workaholic, working all sorts of hours, first one in, doing all the work all the time. Something I know I can relate to, and I'm sure many of us can, because we're all Wonder Women right now doing lots of things. Her relationship had deteriorated, and they were living in sort of this comfort zone that wasn't fulfilling to anybody. And Shauna decided to leave that all behind, packed up her car, and went out on an adventure. And the journey through this book is there's an adventure that we're always choosing. And her choice point was she thought she was going to go on a pretty long journey around the United States, and she did that, and she needed more time to rest. But the line She also confronted her fear and faced it really quite head on in a couple different situations. But the gem that I want us to ponder right now, as you're looking back at what is true for you now, just listen to this and see where your story is with Shaunam's story. Yes, I was jobless, spouseless, and homeless. Yet instead of afraid, I felt free. There were no more outside influences to distract me. Each mile I pushed forward, I left the stressed out, unfulfilled person I was in my wake. With each town and experience, I grew braver and felt a renewed sense of purpose. When I looked up into the rearview mirror, it was with the resolve that I would not repeat past mistakes. The road ahead held the hope and promise of a fulfilling life. It wasn't easy at first. I was sad, lonely, and very uncertain. 2 weeks in, I was in Idaho when the doubt and insecurities became the loudest. I spent 3 full days never leaving the hotel room, subsisting on power bars and vending machine water, paralyzed with my new reality. The self-soothing stories I was feeding myself of being on vacation or going on sabbatical unwound to reveal themselves as lies. So the question that I'd like to ask you as you pick up your pen again, where are you lying to yourself? And are you admitting that you're lying to yourself? So take your pen and paper and just write down again for another minute or so where you are lying to yourself. What's a false promise that you're telling yourself? Take 10 more seconds. You can come back to this. For those of you watching the replay, you could always pause and add a little bit more time. But just following that thread for a second more. And as we do, as you're putting that pen down for a second, I'm going to tune in to Joanna.
Hello, beautiful people. All right. So let me start my timer here. And so we will be discussing chapter 3, the sacred pause. As I heal, the rhythm of my recovery changes too. There's more time to think, to feel, to imagine. In this forced pause, I start to see the divine time and order of all things. I pull out my journal and write. 5 weeks of recovery, Tuesday, September 19th. Dear God, I read Psalm 139 today. My reflection on this is that even when I left from active participation in the Catholic Church, I could not hide from you or your calling. You called me to Siena, and I know even now, into 5 weeks of this dreadful experience, that you have been with me like always. I can't hide from you as much as I try. And I chose to do this because one of the practices that was really helpful for me was reading something that was sacred text to me and then doing some reflection. And so today I drew a card for us, and I want to walk you through this practice. And so what I will do is I'll read through it one time, and then I just, anything that kind of jumps out at you, jot that down. And then I'm going to read it a second time for us. And then that second time, kind of feel into what you can pull more into it. So here it is, awakened awareness. So if you want to close your eyes and just listen this first time, there are many levels to awakening. Keep learning, putting yourself into situations where you can grow. Stay aligned with your inner guidance and do what you love to keep your vibe high. Seek not an instant pleasure, but sustainable and substantial joy. Eat healthily, keep your body active, and have life goals, but with enough space, hear the answers to your prayers. Find your unique way to connect to the divine inside you, not as an external seeking, but as a receptive allowing. Be inspired to see the question at hand with a different perspective. Look between the lines for a deeper interpretation. And I'm going to read it again. And this time, jot down really that one phrase that really stands out to you. Awakened awareness. There are many levels of awakening. Keep learning and putting yourself into situations where you can grow. Stay aligned with your inner guidance and do what you love to keep your vibe high. Seek not instant pleasure, but substantial and sustainable joy. Eat healthfully, keep your body active, and have life goals with enough space to hear the answers to your prayers. Find your unique way to connect to the divine inside you, not as an external seeking, but as a contemplative or as a receptive allowance. Be inspired to see the questions at hand with different perspectives. Look between the lines for a deeper interpretation. And then whatever line that you have chosen, then you are just going to take a little time just to journal of what your response to that line that has for you in this moment in your journey. And I've put in the quote or in the chat the what the card had said. So if you need for reference. One of the practices that I have that I absolutely love is, putting pen to paper. So we have a little bit of extra time. Just allow yourself to, if you didn't get to finish writing anything above, and for Jennifer, who just joined us, get caught up. A few more moments to finish the sentence that you are on, and then I will walk us into the next chapter. So the gem that I am adding to the crown, or into our string of pearls, is this idea of taking time for contemplation, reflection. Now we will move on to chapter 4 by Josette Mills, called Pulling the Plug on People Pleasing. Tapping into my inner knowing and honoring my worth were key components. I knew I wanted to unapologetically create space and inner peace for the life I was working towards. I spent time envisioning my desires, my personal cook making me meals, my bedroom view of the ocean, a few steps to the beautiful beach, a wraparound terrace, having my driver escort me wherever my heart thinks of, and financial freedom to help as many people as I desire in the blink of an eye. Yes, yes. And so I want to walk us through just a little bit of tuning into that desire. So hands on heart, and just imagine that there is a beautiful golden circle around your heart and around your heart's desire. And so we're just going to pull everybody out of the heart space. So we may have people who have ideas of who we should be, what we should be doing, and they get to be outside of the circle. We get to move them out of there and then feel into the expansion of our heart's desire expanding as we remove any obstacles. We can even pull our ego out of our heart space who has all the questions of how this is going to happen. We don't have to worry about that right now. Just tuning in to that heart's desire. We can even pull out our emotions, the ones that give us anxiety or fear or scared about this big heart's desire coming into fruition. We can pull them out of that space and just leave ourself, our heart's desire, and the divine. And one of the things that I love being as a linguist is where like the origin of words come from. So if we break down desire, it comes from this breaking down of day and serve. So it's like of the Lord or of the divine. So I feel like as anytime that we have a heart desire, and it's a true heart desire of our own, that it is ours. And so it's just a matter of all of the divine order of timing and things falling into place. But that if it's in our heart, then it is ours to have. So then you can come back and journal about what does that heart's desire look like. It may be similar to Josette's of, this beautiful home, the lifestyle that she wants to be living. It may be like Jen was alluding to, the way that she's going to be working in the world. So just spend some time in this space. And if you feel like you need to just tune in more, you can tune in more. No judgment around this heart desire. Allow it to be what it is. And it may be just a heart desire that is for the present moment. Something that might take us into 2024. You get to choose your own expression of it today. And you might want to look back at some of those things that we put at the beginning of those. I feel like when we have new desires, looking at the skills and the ways of being that we were when we made big choices before can help us face that fear. Have that courage to move forward. So you might want to write some of those down in here of how to fulfill your desires. Oh, good, Jen. Jen says in the chat, sometimes for me, desire feels hard to name. I like looking back at what has helped me in the past. That is it's a good technique. And I think sometimes, with desire, when it's in our heart and, we deny it or we do not pursue it, it keeps coming back, keeps calling, that piece that Sarah had brought up early on of like, what is that piece that's calling you forward? For me, this desire to be a published author, for me, like I had been denying the call and eventually it'll just come, the point will present itself for you. So yeah, a couple more minutes just to get out what you need to get out. And then we will be moving on to chapter 4. Jen, I don't know who is doing chapter 4.
We are doing chapter 5, and we're going to Sarah for that.
That's what I thought, and then I got confused.
5, you're right. Josiah and my chapter feel like together.
Thank you, Joanna. Sarah is going to take us to chapter 5. Give me 1 second here.
Okay. So with chapter 5, we're moving into a different phase of the spiral path journey. This chapter is by Roxana, and it's titled Allowing Grief, Listening for Love. And I invite you to feel into that as you honor your desire, as you choose to commit to this desire, there's also a simultaneous process of letting go of everything that you thought you might have chosen, everything that you're not choosing, all that will present itself that you may need to let go of as you really commit from your heart to your soul, to your desire. There is a simultaneous process of letting go, of grieving. And the more that we can actually allow for and honor and make space for that, the more our true desire can come forth, and the more we can respond to really creating and fulfilling and manifesting that. But too often we want to bypass. I believe, I know I have wanted to bypass the grief, because that can be hard. It can be painful. And we so want to focus on the joy and the goodness and where we're going. But I really want to encourage you to give yourself permission to allow the grief, because the grief is actually part of the fodder, the compost that's actually going to feed that seed of your desire. So Roxy's chapter is her story of losing her mother, with whom she'd had a very complicated, challenging relationship. And her being in the process of when her mother quite suddenly was dying and there was no hope of her surviving. So this is the words that stood out for me to share with you today. I am here at the beach, looking at the water, witnessing the curiosity of walking into the ocean and leaving this world. I recognized that this was not an actual desire to die, but rather an opportunity to choose how to live, what to let go of, how to feel, and what next step is mine to take. By embracing my loss, my journey, and my transformation with grief, I recognize now that grief is love. They are intertwined. There is no one way to grieve. We all have our own process. Grief is an opportunity to allow emotions to arise, breathe them, accept them, and transform them into love. So I invite you to just touch lightly into right now. Where are you noticing that you might feel some sadness? What might you have to let go of to allow yourself to fully receive and embrace your desire? Is it who you've been up until this point that's carried you this far, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I actually have to let go of that person, incorporate her into where I'm going, but I actually get to, okay, yes, I will reread that. I've lost my train of thought there, but here, let me say, grief is an opportunity. Okay, grief is an opportunity to allow emotions to arise, breathe them, accept them, and transform them into love. And how, in choosing to allow your grief, are you actually allowing yourself to love yourself even more deeply? To love this desire that's come into your heart from your heart, and honoring this sacred path that you've been gifted, essentially, to receive. This is part of the feminine spiral path of co-creation. I think we're taught that, you focus on that goal and you just go, go, go. And we so want it to be a straight line, but it's not. And this is part of the spiral path. There's eddies of spirals all along the spiral. And when we dip into those, touch into those, and allow ourselves to come into our feeling heart, we're going to actually create and fulfill those desires even more magnificently, even more from an embodied place than if we just tried to bulldoze ahead. We can do that, but we're going to get actually a superficial, more singular dimensional version of what's truly there to be created through us. For Roxy, she's come into being an extraordinary sound healer. And a lot of that was because of the pain of her relationship with her mother, but also in her embracing the grief that just took over her, and really feeling into that. So we never know quite where our desire will take us and who will become in the process. But the more we can just be with the journey as it is, as it presents itself, the more we get to become. So what's here for you to let go of? What's here for you to embrace? Where might those challenges be? And in that, I love the title of Roxy's chapter, Allowing Grief, Listening for Love. In allowing that grief, what deeper love may be available for you to support you, to fuel you, and to assist you on this journey that you didn't even know was there before. And as you grieve, I invite you to allow yourself to be knowing that love's holding you, grieving. And you can always hold yourself, hold your own heart, or invite a friend to hold you, knowing that grief is part of life and is love. And in this moment, I invite you to take a big, deep breath into your belly, into your heart, to really feel yourself here, right now, with all that's coming up for you, with all that's not coming up, just being here in your body, wherever you are on your path in this moment. Letting it go and moving forward into chapter 6.
We'll give you a minute to settle with that. Write down anything you need to add to your spiral path mind map. I'm gonna lead you through chapter 6, which was written by Nicole Fabian, called How I Failed One Boy. And this is our final chapter in this grief process. And Nicole had this dream of, since she was 11 years old, of being a teacher and helping the students who were least accepted and least understood. And she really threw herself into that and had so many goals and dreams and met so many wonderful kids, and ultimately came to a place where she realized that the educational system fails these kids. And my chapter is next after hers, and I was one of those kids that the educational system failed. And this particular kid ended up, as a young adult, taking his own life. And so rather than, my brain doesn't work in like a focused chunk, it has little sporadic flashes of wonder and insight. So that's how I will share this chapter with you. So one thing she says is, those kids expanded my heart and showed me I could become comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that really, I think, brings home my wish that I gave at the beginning of the class, for people who are having this experience of going from fear to courage, is that you could embrace the discomfort of change that brings the growth. And another part, she says, I came to understand that I wanted to use my gifts and intuition to help my students in the ways I needed when I was a child. What I love is that it's arisen in her that she has this intuition and wisdom from her own experience that she could share with other people and help them through similar experience. And this is one really big turning point for her. She's talking about this young man who was super, super bright, but came into her class because he was struggling socially. I had some concerns about how he might fare socially, but there wasn't data to support keeping him with us. He had great grades, good behavior, and steady attendance,
To this day, the word data sits like a sour bubble in my throat when I say it. The question of why data was more important than following my intuition and gut feeling of what a student really needed will cast a shadow over my grief and make me doubt myself, my teaching abilities, and the entire educational system for years to come. And what rings true for me with this is the feeling that sometimes we have to follow our thoughts or our logic or information that other people have given us over our own internal wisdom from our own experience. She had her own experience of her whole life and how the educational system did not support her. And that's why she was there and why she was making this choice and why she was showing up in this place. And yet she had this, was in this system and had this structure and this guidance that she's supposed to follow the data and the logic and not her own intuition and true wisdom about what needed to happen, what would be in the highest good and best service for people. Later, she says, why do we not help our students connect to themselves emotionally, physically, spiritually, as well as academically? I think that would take so much self-awareness of every teacher that it would be hard to do, but wouldn't the world be a better place? Why did we not help him learn to self-regulate his emotions, learn to repair, expand, and restore his nervous system? Probably because the teachers don't know how to do that themselves, but wouldn't the world be a better place if they did? And the last one, Anthony died. I lost him. I did not save him. I felt I could save all of my students. My gifts as his teacher did not impact him in the superhero way I thought was possible. I thought all I needed to do was love them and give them a safe place to learn. They needed more from the system and from me. I no longer felt I was doing what I was called to do. And now she's thinking of leaving the educational system and going out on her own and starting a consulting practice for teachers and students and parents of kids who aren't getting served by the system. And that fear of leaving that, what she's known and what she dreamt of doing, is sometimes paralyzing. And she's really having to grieve this 30-year journey she's had of her own education and of educating other kids in the system. And she's grieving her loss of identity as a teacher. But she's starting to get dreams and messages from this student, Anthony. And she doesn't know what's going to happen when she lets go. All she knows is that Anthony keeps telling her to trust herself, which goes back to that initial change point for her of why didn't she listen to her own intuition and her own wisdom rather than the data. I just take a moment to check in with ourselves and just write a little bit or draw or whatever, what's coming up about experience and wisdom, intuition, and self-trust. I see people really writing and drawing, so I don't want to disrupt that. Okay. And just put a place mark or wrap up what you're working on. And Jen has asked me to lead us in a little exercise because we're going to have a big transition from chapter 6 to chapter 7. And so I just want to take a moment to just kind of have some somatic release and release from our bodies all of this that has built up through this process of the spiral path so far. And what we're going to do is called Fear Melters. It's from Katie Hendricks, adapted by Scott Mills. And we'll just take a minute and close our eyes and put our hands over our hearts and take some deep breaths in and out. Scott likes to say our breath is our best friend, and it's always with us. And as we breathe, just take a moment to feel in our bodies where our feelings might be welling up, being held, wanting some attention. We don't need to do anything about it, but just notice and continue to breathe. And as we breathe and feel into our bodies, we'll just start to straighten our spine, get in alignment, feel how that affects or changes our breath. Our first movement is called shake, and it's just something to do. To start to just shake. Shake a little bit, shake gently, just wiggle, just kind of move the body. This is to get out of a place of freeze. When we feel like that fear that comes up for us of letting go, of moving on to the next thing, is paralyzing or freezing us, we can just wiggle, even just our fingertips. Just move a little bit in whatever way we can to remind us we're not stuck, we're not frozen. We can move. We can move from this place to the next one. And the next movement that we'll move into is for when we feel like running. We have that flight instinct. Our fear causes us a flight instinct. We can just melt. Or actually, I think melt is for fight, when we feel like we need to fight something. Instead of putting up our dukes and charging at something, pulling our weapons, we can just chill, breathe, relax into gravity, slow things down, give our bodies and our spirits, our breath a chance to ease into it. And the next one that we'll move into is for the flight response. Just going to ground ourselves, align ourselves, put on our arms gently like we're hugging a tree in front of us or a dear friend. This is called sumo. This is just a grounded place to be present and establish I am here. And if it helps inside ourselves to just chant, I am here. I am here. And next we'll move from this feeling of presence and groundedness, staking our claim to this place rather than running away from it. We'll start to go into what we would need to give ourselves if we were in a faint place, a place of fawning or holding, just absolutely losing our ability to understand what at all to do. This often happens if we're feeling abused or victimized. We just come to this place of we're going to scoop love as slowly as we can, one hand after the other, into our hearts. This love from the universe at large, love from and to ourselves, love from our community, just free floating love right into ourselves. Slowly, slowly gathering it in to whatever part of ourself is needing that love. And then we'll just do one more release through shaking or wiggling. You don't need to just hold still and sit still and let it happen. We can move. We can remind ourselves we have choices. We have options. We have ideas. We can move through it. Now put our hands back on our hearts. Come back to our breath. Lining the spine. Breathing deeply through the core. Noticing what may have changed in the last 5 minutes that we've been doing this. Okay. When you're ready, opening your eyes, coming back to the groove. You're welcome. And now I'm going to shift gears with my chapter, which is chapter 7, which is actually called Paradigm Shift. And I'll just kind of summarize and preface this by saying that I'm a neuroatypical person, just like Anthony was in Nicole's class. And I was struggling in similar ways, just a very, very extremely sensitive person, and things happened so deeply for me. And it was extremely painful and also really beautiful in its ways. Sometimes so painful that I did want to leave. I did feel a lot of isolation. And even though I was very gifted and intelligent, really good at school and academics, sometimes I withdrew so far into myself that I couldn't communicate anything to other people or to my teachers. And so I was really in my own world to process things. And so the first little quote from my chapter that I'd like to share is, by my freshman year of college, I realized that rather than spending time in classrooms hearing lectures all about the things teachers had been saying on repeat for so many years, I wanted to spend my time in nature, hiking, and teaching children about organic gardening. I realized that being me wasn't about following the strict rules of what I had been told to be. It was about pursuing ideas to the edges of existence for the sheer love of knowing, regardless of whether or not it's comfortable for others. It was this place of not only getting over the discomfort of where I am or what I need to let go of, but actually the discomfort that others might feel with who I am and who I need to be and how I need to express myself, which always comes from a place of love. I started to see myself as a person with disabilities and superpowers. I noticed that leaning into my special interests gave me the courage to overcome my challenges to function well in my chosen profession. The desire to do well in soil science and tree physiology motivated me to study self-regulation skills like meditation and yoga, and communication skills like deep listening and compassionate communication. Exactly the kind of skills that Nicole wished that they could be teaching in school and that she could have really shared with Anthony, that might have helped him face his pain and deal with the discomfort rather than trying to numb it with drugs that ultimately led to his demise. Now I can see how my years as a mother and a soil scientist have shown me that I am empathetic, resilient, and respected. My unstructured way of thinking makes me creative, and my depth of emotion makes me strong. Just take a few minutes to write down some things or draw some pictures about what your special interests are. Go back to Sarah's question of what is calling you. What has that draw that is strong enough inside you and or outside you that could help you overcome your challenges, your disabilities, your fear. I'll just take one more minute to make some notes or see what we might want to explore further about that later. And now that we've had that transition, I'll lead us out the other side. To Kathy Gates's chapter 8, which is called From Life's Fire to Life's Gifts. The first message I received last night from this is, I read that people come to fire walks for all kinds of reasons. Most of them to walk away from something and to walk toward something. What am I walking away from? And what am I walking toward? This is the theme of today. I'm not sure if it was courage or a feeling of total defeat that motivated me. But 1 month after my dad died, I asked my husband to move out and I filed for a divorce. With that choice made, my mind wandered to the next likely question, now what? Somewhere just out of earshot, an inner fire was quietly calling me. My body was begging for me to lay down my burdens as I felt my ancestors weaving their sacred song into the fabric of my soul. I decided to quit my job and I stepped out onto the shaky, unknown territory of entrepreneurship. I poured all of my energy into starting a holistic trauma center. I had been planning, dreaming, scheming, and calling this into existence for years, but never had the right time or support to pursue my dream. But a new fire was already aflame deep within me and could not be ignored. The more experiences I had like these, the more I wanted. This freedom was only possible when I was willing to step out of my comfort zone and lean heavily on the universe and trust her to carry me through. So here I am. Can I trust her? Standing at the edge of that firewalk, I hear my heart say, hell yes, I can trust her. She had been orchestrating every step. Every cell in my body resonated with this truth. So for me, I'm in that place where I feel like I'm arriving somewhere. I've been struggling, fighting, wanting, being called, whatever, to go for a very long time. And I've stepped into it in moments and seen a vision or a version of myself that other people might see that I don't usually. And getting glimpses myself of that person and how the other people might be experiencing me is leading me to understand or believe or receive that I need to go toward more experiences that will bring this out rather than staying where I'm comfortable and where I know I'm going to be able to function and be successful all the time. To step into unknown and very difficult challenges that will grow, I know will grow and expand me in ways I never imagined. And it's that question that keeps coming up for me. Can I trust her? And of course, the her is mostly me. And it's the wisdom from the experiences that I've gained. Can I trust myself? Can I trust my community? Can I trust my friends, my family? Can I trust the universe? And thankfully, Kathy has given me the answer. The answer is hell yes, she can. So just take some time to process, write, draw about that place of self-trust. That thing that has been calling us for a long time. That we may need to take a pretty big leap of faith.
Wendy, you're done. That moment of surrender, where you trust yourself, your dream, your vision, God, source, whatever it is, you trust enough to let go and surrender. And with that, we then start to magnetize to us those unknown, perhaps unseen resources, people, opportunities, experiences to us that are just waiting to assist us to create and fulfill our dream. And that's the next chapter, written by April Lee, called Mirrors. My experience has been is that we often usually don't know what we're not or what's missing because it's just what has been. We only know our experience, but then something or someone will come into our lives and it opens up a whole new what's possible. For me, my moment was when I returned to England, which is where I was born, and I had grown up over here just being me, doing me. And when I stepped foot in England as a 50-year-old woman, all of a sudden I felt this rootedness and a belonging that I didn't even know I didn't know. It was what I didn't know that I didn't know. And it shifted and changed my life and my world. And that's the pearl that I received from April's chapter. Is she'd grown up without her father. He'd never been a part of her life. And she didn't know what was missing until she met him and got to see herself mirrored in this man. It was biologically related to her, but she'd not had a relationship. I'm getting teary just thinking about that moment she wrote about in her chapter. So that's what I'd like to read with you right now. And this is her reflecting on the chapter is really about that initial meeting, and then her reflecting on as they continued their relationship. One weekend, he passed down his lomi lomi to me, as it had been traditionally done. Lomi lomi being a form of healing. I felt that he was handing down not only a physical and spiritual modality, but the source of my essence that helped complete a part of my story that had been missing. I could now be certain that my intuitive power was who I truly was, and that no one could take it away from me. He died a few years later after their first meeting. And while I wanted to share that what I just wrote, what I just read to you, this is the sentence that kind of kept speaking to me that it needed to be shared. I celebrated the joy that he and I had experienced through our connection, and knew without a doubt there was no such thing as lost time. So in those moments when somebody appears or something appears to support, assist, guide, redirect you on your path, it is in perfect timing. It's part of the surrender. It's part of the trust. April's father coming into her life when he did deepened her trust in herself for her to continue on her path of being a healer. It reflected to her who she was as a musician. All these aspects of herself that she didn't have reflected anywhere else, but yet it was a part of who she really, really is. For me, April's chapter is a confirmation of that when we're standing at that point of, do I surrender or don't I? Do I continue to resist, hold out, think that I know better? Or do I step onto the fiery hot coals? And what April's saying to me is, yes, I can. Hell yes, I can. And then that's when unknown, unseen support just is magnetized to you in ways you could never have predicted or thought. It is part of the magic of the perfection that shows up to support and assist us. To me, this is one of the most magical moments on the path because we cannot predict it. We cannot foresee it from our rational, logical minds. It's so much bigger than who we are. And it takes such surrender. It's where we do get to trust the path, trust our vision, trust our desire, trust ourselves. God, it's where it's the most fun, too. But we got to take the next step. Because how many people stop in that moment right before, say, I can't do this. And then they miss out on divine providence just stepping in. So in this moment, I'm going to invite you to step through that place. Where have you stepped through it in the past? And Things have happened that you could have never dreamed possible, or where might you be resisting that point? Be honest with yourself. Like Jen said at the beginning, are you willing to be honest with yourself about where you've perhaps not chosen this? It's really important to acknowledge that. Forgive yourself, be gentle with yourself. You weren't ready. But what if there's something right here and right now? And all you have to do is say, "Oh, yes, I can. I got this." Just say, "Heaven, yes, I can." That's way more expansive and creative, isn't it? The mirrors, even the title of April's chapter, those mirrors are all around us if we're willing to open our eyes, open our ears, and most especially open our hearts. We'll have it reflected back to us wherever we go, wherever we look. So what possibly might a mirror be right there for you right now? Name it. See it. And in that, I really invite yourself to look in the mirror. See yourself. See the beauty that you are, the perfection that you are. Just look at yourself. And even if it's just this much of you that believes it, yes, I can. I've got this. I can do this. I'm doing this. I'm choosing me. Breathe deeply into your belly, deeply into your heart, and feel your yes. Feel yourself magnetizing to you everything you need to create and fulfill this dream beyond your wildest imagination. Say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Be in such deep gratitude that all that you need is coming to you to support you on your path.
We're going to pick right up with mirrors, because that's when you start looking in the mirror and you start reclaiming what is yours to claim right now, you will come to the place of making choices. Again, you're constantly making choices. And the other day when we were planning some of this session, we were talking about the power of the choice and believing in the power that you have the choice. And sometimes that's enough to push you through the fear. And that when you choose your self-sovereignty and break away from what society wants you to do, that's really a big leap. And Susan Smith writes about that in her chapter, Searching for the American Dream. And in some ways, Susan's story mirrors some of the choices that Shauna was making way back in chapter 2 about her choice to walk away from the life that she knew was crushing her. And Susan's story is the reflection of knowing that there's also a bigger system in play that sometimes can make you feel like you're caged. And I'll divert from Susan's chapter for a moment from something that I heard when we were walking in Iran. More than once, people told us, we're free in their cage. And before I started on the walk, we found a piece of graffiti that has forever stayed with me, written on a wall in Barcelona. The person who doesn't move doesn't feel the chains. So as we come into Susan's chapter, Searching for the American Dream, I want you to begin to think of the mirror in your own life where there's something at work beyond you, and that you're going to have to free yourself from the cage that holds you in there. And Susan did that by not only quitting her job, but as a single mom and as a single grandmother. She adopted her granddaughter, who was very young at the time. And in her 50s, she left America. She went over to the United Arab Emirates, Gulf state, and she began to become a professor. She went on a completely different path. She had trained as a documentary filmmaker, went to college well after the time that most folks go to college. She owned her own landscaping business, and then went to school and got her degree in documentary filmmaking and visual anthropology. And then she came to this moment where she really understood what she was facing. And the gem that I bring into this is something that offers reflection into knowing where the limit isn't just ours, but we are going to break the chains of what limits us. I suffered from depression throughout those years of hardship. I paid for sliding scale therapy to combat feelings of inadequacy. Time and time again, I was told that it was my perception and low self-esteem which hampered my success. All the while, the therapist ignored the system that throttled me. That system pressed me between forces. As a woman, every decision produced devastating consequences, causing me to re-examine without mercy my broken relationships and my introversion, which I hear now is a new sensitivity these days. All these so-called failures created negative self-talk. Why couldn't I do better? I'm too shy and not friendly enough. I'm just not working hard enough. Self-blame and deep shame took root, crushing my self-image even more. After graduate school and with the expectation of turning my life around, my financial situation did not improve. Hard work, graduate education, resilience, and stubbornness produced the same outcome. I had not reached the American dream. And I don't want to be defeatist about this, but sometimes that system, this patriarchy, the capitalism, the systems that are created and working beyond us, will try to hold us back. But the invitation here is to follow Susan's lead a bit and realize that maybe pulling up by the bootstraps isn't really the way forward. It's really breaking with that concept that you have to work harder and do more to be all that you are. So Susan in her 50s moved to the Emirates, packed up her granddaughter and moved abroad, stepped into this idea of finding what she needed financially, finding the support she needed outside of her country of birth, and opening her eyes in a way that is much more global. Susan is a global nomad in a lot of ways, and she has traveled the world to do documentary films. She's writing a memoir now. I'm helping her through that process, and she tells stories about genocide in Guatemala. She tells stories about women who have recovered their voice in Africa when they've had AIDS and they haven't even told anybody they've had AIDS. She's created a foundation to help people, but particularly women, give voice to the trauma that they've lived through and rise up and tell their stories. It's not something she anticipated doing. And now at 70, she's moving back to America to retire. So I'll leave you with Susan's last words here. Growing old and being a single female in America is something to reckon with. When I left America nearly 20 years ago, I understood that the American dream was a myth. I also knew I didn't belong, and looking for that place to call home sent me on a journey living abroad. It is time for a new American dream. Envisioning my future, my Speak Trauma Foundation, in my documentary filmmaking, I'm drawn inwards towards providing agency through storytelling for older adults. I want to raise awareness about income inequality and confront the system that has created millions of vulnerable people in America. Even though I will be far away from my family abroad, a family I've come to love, I know they won't be far from my heart. I will create another family back in my homeland of America. And in some sense, I am and forever will be a nomad, always reaching for limitless potentials and possibilities on the distant horizon. What's on your distant horizon? Where are you attached to something that is holding you chained to some ideology, philosophy, system? And how can you imagine yourself with big, giant clippers, cutting that chain, sawing that away, and walking off into your distant horizon? What is the dream that you are seeding right now? What's the big wish? How can you physically and emotionally begin to prune that away? And what can you do within the system to break the system? What does that look like when you create your own way of being? When you walk away from what is no longer true for you? And yeah, it is scary. It is scary to leave what's comfortable and to walk towards a horizon that you could just barely see. Give yourself another minute to do that, adding words, around your mind map. I started with this idea that my mind map was going to be this orderly thing, and I was going to connect all these dots. And it's turning into something our colleague and co-author Ellison James always talks about as smash booking. And I'm just writing over it all. I'll show you at the end, but it's all writing over itself. So as you put those last touches on, we're going to talk about Ellison's chapter next.
I have the excellent pleasure of introducing you to Ellison's chapter called Crone Learning to Dance with Death. And I would not have been in this book without Ellison. And one of the things that I want to share with you about who Ellison is she has this great ability to just have curiosity about what drops in and what comes forward for her. And, I think when we look at that concept of like fear and courage, we don't have to be fearless to have the courage to step into whatever the new this that is coming forward on this spiral path. We can feel the fear. I mean, even Allison in her journey of coming, into authorship, she was just like, I don't consider myself a writer. I don't have the background that everybody else may have, going to school and having, a really structured writing practice. But she said, it was too important. It was too important to not share what, and we helped her along, and she powerfully claims, and that's what the big thing that stood out in her story is this piece of claiming who you are and who your superpower or what your superpower is. So this is what I'm going to share with you. When I felt myself expanding to fill the room, telling myself I was safe, and it was time to follow the divine inspiration I was about to receive. It was as if I was floating slightly above myself, just watching everything unfold. I stood up a little straighter. I looked directly at the teacher and blurted out this outrageous claim. The reason that I should be hired is because of my superpower. I paused for dramatic effect and watched everyone lean in, not wanting to miss what was coming. My ability to hold the enormity of grief and fear during a loved one's dying is what makes me a death doula. My superpower is death. And I just really love that she, earlier in the chapter, she's like, I could rattle off all of my many qualifications, but she took it a different way. She's like, I got all these qualifications, but really tuning in to her heart and saying, okay, I'm going to courageously claim this for myself and use what really feels like an inspiration from spirit of what I'm really doing in the world in the way that I am, presenting myself in the world. And so I think that this piece of the sentence here that really stood out to me in the reading, the reason that I should be hired is because of my superpower. So maybe write that line down. The reason that I should be hired, or the reason that I should be seen, or the reason I should follow my desire is because of my superpower. And then put a sentence of my ability to ... Don't overthink it, but just what is something that's really calling in your abilities that you are meant to be sharing in the world, way of being in the world, and then putting what your superpower is. And I drew a card for Ellison's chapter, and I think that this is just really in her spirit and in the spirit as we're leading out. It's about progress. So the card says progress, charging forward, being willing to make mistakes. And I think that that's where courage kind of comes in, is that we may not know everything that is going to happen on the path ahead of us, but because we feel that call and we've taken the courage to make one step and then another towards this heart's desire, it's okay. Like, it's okay that mistakes come, that's that place where we can course correct rather than completely avoiding the path. I think sometimes we resist the path because we're afraid of the mistakes that will come along the way. So, this could be a question that you can come back to. And this time I forgot to put my timer on, but it is 12:12 here. And maybe after you have some time of reflection, I would suggest doing a very like power position and using the mirror and saying that so you can put your hands on your hips and put your shoulders back, stand up a little taller as Allison had told us in the story, and say, my ability to blank, 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 and my superpower is. And feel that energy. Yes, I can. Energy that Wendy was bringing us, because we're sassy, we're feisty, we're fierce and fun and fantastic, as my shirt says. I don't know where all my wands went to. All emoji panels, Jen. They're tucked away somewhere. And as you take that final few moments, then Jen will be walking us out of the spiral path with our final chapter.
Here we are, chapter 12. The wind that whispers to me. One of my superpowers is that I hear the wind that whispers to me, and it takes me into amazing places that I never would have normally said yes to. When I was 5 years old, I didn't know it was the wind that was whispering to me, but I heard very clearly, it's time for you to go see the world. I went upstairs and I packed my little Barbie doll, hot pink, bubblegum pink suitcase, put some underwear in there and some socks. I walked downstairs and I said, I'm off to see the world. And my mom was making corn and she kind of looked up and it's like, okay, dinner's, be home for dinner in just a little while. My dad was watching a football game. I walked down the street. My suitcase was 5 years old. And I got as far as the corner and I wasn't really sure what else to do next. I wasn't really allowed to be that far down the street. I was sort of at the very limit of my freedom at 5. I definitely wasn't allowed to cross the street, and I definitely wasn't allowed to go around the corner towards the bigger boulevard. So I sat down at the stop sign, and I said, okay, I guess the world's gonna have to wait. I'm hungry and it's dinner time. And I walked back home. And I had dinner that night with my family. But these messages pop in for me, and they've popped in and they've been guidance for me. Surprisingly, now I'm getting a lot of them on a train going from where I live to Barcelona. And that was the message that whispered to me to bring this collaborative book together. But one of the most important wins that came into me was an invitation to go walk 2 continents. And it came just on a very June afternoon on a very small wind. And it landed on me and it said, before you're old and broken, go for a long walk. I did not even think about it, but I emailed my partner, Luis, who was working in a corporate office at the time. I was sitting at home waiting for phone calls for a freelance article that I was writing. And there's a story behind that, but the short story is that it was very clear that this was going to be something that we were going to have to talk about, because I felt it, my whole body sort of tingled with it. So I emailed him and said, Luis, before we're old and broken, let's go for a long walk like this couple in America had done in the 1970s. That there was an inspiration behind that. And I had stumbled on an article about this couple that had walked across the United States. Well, the guy walked across the United States, he met his wife, and they walked back together in the 1970s. They were on the cover of National Geographic. And somehow in 2014, in 2013, I found that article. And Luis didn't say no. His response was, well, that's a long way, because I had proposed Asia. We came home, we looked at the map, and then we went off. And then he came back the next day and said, before we're old and broken, what if we walked from like Buenos Aires to San Francisco? And my answer was, it's a long way. Somehow we both knew it was a yes. And we spent the next couple years planning it. It took us a while. In my world, we would have left it within 6 months and it would have been done. Luis is more stable, likes to have financial security and better footing on the ground. So we saved our money for a couple of years. And then off we went. And we walked from Bangkok to Barcelona over the course of 3.5 years. And it was hard. It was really hard. It's hard to carry 25 kilos on your back, which is about 44 pounds, and everything you need is with you. And we left because we wanted to. We left because we wanted to. We weren't leaving because we hated our lives. In fact, we loved our lives so much that that's why we did it. Because it was just one more drop of love to add into our life. And it's actually been the best thing I've ever done. And I mentioned this the other day in the planning session, and I said, I don't think I could ever top that. And Sarah challenged me to say, what's even better than that? Why are you living your life from the conclusion of it? The conclusion that there was nothing better than this walk, and nothing's ever going to top that. And I've been really sitting with that for the last couple of days of thinking of that. And why am I living my life as if it's a conclusion? I'm 52. I'll be 52 in January. If I'm lucky, I have a lot of life still in front of me. So the excerpt that I'm going to read as we kind of walk out of this masterclass in our book is something that we're going to work with as the activity, as we close out here. But here it is. I bust out laughing at the absurdity of it all. Not just this bizarre goal called Bangkok, Barcelona on foot, but my naive willingness to do this strange and unconventional thing. What's wrong with me, with us? Why do we have to do this? What are we trying to prove? I sigh and I wait for an answer. A soft breeze catches the night and a tiny, quiet voice passes through me. Look up. I tilt my head back and the tears slowly come again. This time they are the tears of wonder, awe, and joy. I stand absolutely still, thumbs hooked around my backpack straps. The sky is lit with more stars than I have ever seen in my entire life. The creamy band of the Milky Way holds my breath. When I remember to exhale, the voice returns. Do you see it now? I wait for my own answer. Yes, I do. I say it out loud with a renewed confidence. A flash of memory connects me to my 5-year-old self at the stop sign, the little girl who knew life called to her. I'm so willing to be here and do this absurd thing because I am part of it all. I am part of this beautiful, intricate web of life that's always weaving. Yes, and I hear another almost unperceivable breeze caress my cheeks. I pause and I ponder, and then a knowing fills my body. And I stand up a little taller. Oh, I'm a weaver. Knowing the profound human experience of being part of creating all there is, all there was, and all that will be, keeps my eye fixed on the sky. I take a long, slow inhale. I want to linger. I want to cherish everything about this fleeting moment. But there's still work to do and more life to live. So, as we come to this part, I'm going to invite you to take a little pause here. Close your eyes. Imagine that you are walking towards a distant horizon. You've gathered in your backpack all of the skills and talents and gems that you've collected along the way. You have good walking shoes. You have some idea of where you're going, but you don't need a very detailed map yet. You're just walking with this flicker of an idea that is shining some ray of light on your heart center, on your brain, on your mind, on your body. Somewhere in your body, there is intuition, wherever you feel this. You may feel it in your gut. You may feel it in your heart. It may even choke you up in your throat chakra. You may connect with it through your third eye. You're stepping towards your horizon, and you hear the wind that says, "Look up." And there's your North Star, the brightest star in your sky. And you know what that bright light carries. You know it instinctively, intuitively. It's been guiding you all along, and sometimes you forget to look up to see it. But there it is, up and out on the horizon, pulling you towards it. You feel comforted, you know it's there. In all of the gems that you've collected today, and through your entire life and through your experience, this North Star of yours keeps calling you back. Brings you both to the center of yourself, and it helps you weave all of the universe that you're creating for yourself. It brings you great amount of comfort and joy. And as you hold the gaze on this star, you begin to realize that there is a whole universe of stars shining around you. And it holds your breath for a second, because all of those stars are an infinite number of support systems, people who love you, others who want to see you fly and soar into your life, for you to capture joy and cultivate joy and share it with others. They are beacons of hope. They are cosmic breadcrumbs. You just stand a little taller with a little bit more courage and a little bit more confidence. And you place your eyes back on the horizon, and something comes into view. What comes into view? What wind is caressing you? What inner knowing is true now? What is the last pearl you want to add to this necklace we've been creating? And the last gem you want to add to your crown? Write it, draw it, speak it. Invite it to walk with you. Give it a form, give it a shape, give it a color, give it a name. Notice how it becomes the new core of the spiral path. Writing on itself, moving back into the center. In this moment of fall, when we are tilling the land and preparing it for winter and preparing it for spring seeding, what are you going to plant there? Not right now, but with the intention that you can let it rest. Be specific. Hold the big vision, and wherever you feel the intuitive nudge, and then create the specific idea of what the next step looks like. You don't have to take the step yet. But in the realm of possibility, what is one or two things you could do to make that horizon feel a little bit closer to you? Is there a time frame? We are connecting divine feminine intuition here with a bit of the divine masculine. combining the flow of life that we want to dance with and float through, and giving our divine masculine selves a little bit of a map that says, okay, let's go get it. Igniting a little bit of our own fire, catching the idea that comes in on the air, on the breeze, the deep listening. Breathing this to life. And for a moment, connecting the dots. Looking down at what you have strung together over these last couple of hours. Maybe putting a star or a heart next to something that feels that it's forming the constellation with your North Star. Inviting in this 11-11 powerful manifesting energy right on the cups of the new moon. Balsamic moon energy here, where we are in a dark moon phase, but resting into that idea so that when we come out of the waning moon and into the waxing moon, we can begin. But in the liminal space between the fear of doing something and the courage it's going to take for you to achieve it. Just noticing that little gap there. And allowing your hand to just flow over those words to form the constellation. Maybe it looks like some sort of spiral. Maybe it will look like Orion pulling his arrow as we kind of move into Sagittarius season soon, when the arrow in the direction you want to go. And then for a moment, just closing your eyes and pulling inward. Returning to the wish that we had in the beginning. Whatever intention you set for yourself today, reconnecting with that. Noticing what shifted between what was true before and what feels true now. And as you're curving your spiral path, watching yourself move upwards and inwards and outwards all at the same time, bringing in the intention to find the support you need. We are not doing this alone. We are all on a spiral path, walking together, sometimes in concentric spirals and sometimes slightly separated, but calling in the people who want to help you, who will help you. Calling in your superpowers and the gifts that you have and your talents that will help you get to the next phase of wherever you're going. And I'll share a wish that I started every morning of my walk with when we were walking through Asia and Europe. Thank you to all the people, things, experiences that have led me to this exact moment. Sending the wish sort of behind us to where life was before. Sending gratitude forward to all the people you don't know yet, experiences and things that you will face and encounter that you don't know and that will show up and guide you forward. Sending out in all directions, above, below, and all around you. light and love and joy. And whatever it is between the fear and the courage. And knowing that you can take the next step. And the choice is always yours. And with that, I'm going to move us into gallery mode. We are recording. I do feel that whatever shares come out right now will be important for us to say and for others to learn from. If that makes you uncomfortable, you are invited to close your camera and we'll just use your voice. But part of the joy of the spiral path is being witnessed, and we'll hold the space for the witnessing. So come on in, everybody. What's true now?
I have this awesome, twisty, spirally path thing full of really awesome gems that I'm actually going to arrange in some sort of clear order. And they're giving me just awesome pieces of wisdom and information that I need for sitting and reflecting these quieter months and heading toward the thing that I, on a whim, instigated for myself and wrote the letter, hey, I think I should do this. And now all that, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? And maybe I should not do that. And these are all the pieces of information that I needed and that I need to sit with and head toward making that thing not only real, but the way I want it to be. And one of the thing that I put a star next to that just stood out for me was find experiences that create sustainable and substantial joy. And I think that's really the source and the message that I'm doing right now and that I'm going toward, no matter what my choices are. So hell yes to that.
What else? What aha moments have shown up?
I have so many, like I've written a whole bunch of pages and I'm processing. I think I'm really in a space of processing. And the cool thing is I feel like I'm going to revisit all of these things, but I kind of want to go almost to the end because I found a word coming in throughout that was sprinkled, which was about being valued. And for me personally, that's not something I've been comfortable with or I've devalued or felt not necessarily even from the outside world. It was an inside job. Even looking back, I can see where I actually was valued, but I didn't feel worthy of it. So when Joanna was sharing about the superpower, I heard the reason I should be valued instead of hired or whatever other word, it was valued. And it was my personal is because of my imagination and the creativity and creations that it births. And when I tapped into my imagination, which I've had so powerfully since I was a child, and which was also told, you're naive, you're there, all that stuff. I felt that my imagination is my direct link to my source. It's my superpower. And in that space, I'm valued. I'm valued inside myself, but source values me and what I create because of it. And that just shifted me in a way that It wasn't about worth. It isn't about deserving. It isn't about any of that crap. It's I hold value through my connection to source and through what I create and my creativity in this world. So I just thank you all, ladies, for all of the bits that brought me to that. And I thank you and I value everything you brought today. And I thank you for showing me mine.
Thank you, Jen, sending you love and light, and you are valued. A fierce awakening that needs to be witnessed or would like to be witnessed.
I would say I was really shocked at what all came up during chapter 5 in this kind of letting go energy. And I wanted to just thank Sarah beautifully for sharing what was really coming forward for her in that chapter. And I think that that's the interesting thing, us, sharing from the chapters, from the ones who were not, not the authors. It made me see the chapters in different ways too. So I just wanted to share that little bit of like, oh, that's really how that, we've talked about it as authors that, the book is no longer ours, the stories are no longer just ours, but how others are interacting with it. I thought that was really cool to experience that this go around in the book. So thank you for that, Sarah.
I'm really surprised by some of the things that I was holding on to also, right? Just that I think the way the book is structured is that we're moving towards that. You thought you had a plan, and life kind of shows up and says, oh, yeah, that's not really the plan. And there's going to be the grief and there's going to be the loss of what you thought was and what you once loved. And you're going to have to release it. It's a little bit, the book is very modeled with the idea of Maureen Murdoch's The Heroine's Journey, which is different than the hero's journey. And it's about the descent and then the reuniting, like stripping it all away and then kind of coming back in and reclaiming. And I was a bit surprised to catch myself in the grief of like who I thought I wanted to be. and I'm not. And I'm somebody else and I really need to love her more. So that came up for me. So that's something I'm going to be bringing into Nicole and Roxy's Reiki session right after this in sound healing and trying to figure out who that woman is who wants to be here now. The higher me that wants to be here. So thank you for holding that space for me.
I'd like to ride on that because I think it was very powerful for me as a co-author to both get to choose 2 other chapters, but also to hear what you each brought forth from the other chapters that weren't yours. I feel like the book became even fuller and richer for me this morning, and it was already pretty darn rich and pretty darn full. So I love that. And what I'm is that given where I am poised to like step into and onto the next octave of my spiral, I'm really grateful for a coalescing and a clarifying that happened for me today. I mean, I've been amazed at what's been coming forth for the last like 3-4 days from my journey anyway, but it just feels like, oh, you mean this choice I thought was a choice in and of itself is actually part of a much bigger, almost soul purpose. And kind of recognizing that and receiving that as well, and being able to do that through this process today. And so I hope that for everybody who gets to participate, the 2 of you who are here with us and others who will hear this, like that this process is very valuable. I value this process we've offered, and that the book is a powerful container. And for us to each really step more fully into ourselves and and even more fully onto our own spiral path. So I'm just feeling very grateful because there's a clarity and a strength in the container that's holding me that's really deepened and become even more powerful. So yay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you all. I feel so pulled to be in your presence. I have not read the book. I didn't realize that. I mean, just celebrating with you when you launched, I realized like that each person writing their particular story, not their life story, but a story from their life, was a huge journey for you. And it was so great to feel the not only the joy that you had written it, but like to hear about the whole experience of you coming together and how it worked. And then today to realize that there's this whole other level to that collection of stories, that it really guides someone through a process is just a phenomenal thing to learn about, but even more so to experience. Personally, what I got today, I had no idea what I would get today. I just knew I needed to show up, and I apologize for being late. I overslept, but I asked the universe for something to help me celebrate 11/11, and then immediately your email appeared, and I'm like, I must be there. And I really just wanted to come and support you because I love what you're doing. And what I got from it was like so, I'm just gonna try not to cry because I cry all the time, but I'm going through this process where my father's dying and my mother is kind of trying to keep us all away from him. And I finally realized like I just need to ignore her. I don't want to. I mean, the only way for me to go on with my own life is to give up this relationship with my mom. And that was very empowering for the last 6 weeks, where I just finally felt peace in my life and got forward momentum on so many things. But it was today that I realized like that was what was necessary for me. But what's really necessary is that I don't want to get rid of my dad, and he's not going to be here much longer. And I just need to find a way to get to him and be there for him. And what I kept hearing today was the compassionate listening. And I can't fix his problems, and I can't make him healthy, and I can't fix the fact that my mother is not the best caretaker for him right now. But I just need to send him a telephone with a long cord that he can reach from his bed because he's confined to bed. And I need to call him and not talk to him. I just need to listen to him and be there for him. And that I was missing that before. And that was a realization that just came to me. And thank you for witnessing me.
Where you are in our hearts. We're here with you, and if you need additional support, reach out to any of us.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. It was very brave of you to share that. I do feel compelled to ask, is there any support that we can offer you right now?
Thank you for being so caring. This has just been the best support I could have found so far. Thank you. No, there's nothing more. This has been amazing. Thank you.
I'm glad you found what you needed here. Or at least a piece of it. My mom said that to me when I went on my first backpacking trip after a divorce and my first solo trip by myself in my early 30s. She stood on the porch with me. Dad was getting the car ready. And she hugged me and she said, I hope you find what you're looking for. I didn't realize I was looking for something, but certainly have found more than I thought. So that's my wish for all of you, is that you find what you're looking for. If we're feeling complete on that, I will share with you that we have there are interviews up on my YouTube channel, and they'll be probably published in other places by the co-authors as well. But if you go to the Always on My Way Fierce Awakened Woman YouTube channel, and I'll put the link here, there are I interviewed all the co-authors, and then Susan Smith interviewed me, but we shared a little bit of our wisdom about fierce awakenings and our approach to life. And there's a lot of wisdom buried, not just in the book, but in these additional conversations and interviews. Go in when you have a few minutes. They're all about 20 to 30 minutes each. If there's a certain chapter or a certain author that you connected with. In the book, we have all of our URLs and link tree ways that you can find us. We are available. We really do want to make this a process, and we are going to be doing more of these. They will be seasonally aligned. There will be probably different co-authors or the same co-authors. Everybody's, doing their thing. But if you're interested in that, we probably will be setting one up sometime in the winter and then again in the spring, using the same material in different ways to keep enriching the experience. So we'll see what happens. We don't know yet. Exactly. We don't know yet. We're kind of inventing it as we go too. Co-authors, any other things that need to be wrapped up before we go?
I would love to announce that we have a Facebook group called Fierce Awakened Women.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we do.
And you can partake in joining. That's a great place for you to hear updates on, give feedback on, and find a support community. We've had people join from our creativity jam, from our book launches, and then I know Jen Goodwin just joined here recently. So that's a great place to come and hang out with us. And we do fun things. And we're also expanding that community and figuring out what all beauty that we're going to bring into there. But that's one other way that you can connect with us.
There are two places there. Joanna mentioned the Fierce Awakened Woman Facebook group, and there's also a book, Fierce Awakenings Facebook group. So that will be in the follow-up emails that you get with the recording, and I don't have that handy at the moment. Funny, I didn't even forgot about that, but thank you, Joanna, for that. Sarah, do you have that poem handy that you sent? I'd like to close it
Yes.
with that.
The one I sent over chat the other day.
Yes, I think it's a beautiful way to end.
Yes. She chose.
Mm-hmm.
She realized she had this big, bold, and beautiful life. And she realized she didn't want to live it, chasing and crying and apologizing, starving and fearing and regretting. She realized she wanted to live it proudly and freely and creatively, lovingly and fully and sweetly. She realized she could choose. And so she chose. I wish I could say who it was. I shared it. I'll have to go back and see where I got that, because yes, I know I need to. They didn't put that on the thing, so I will find out who that was.
We'll just thank whoever put those words together and inspire us to keep walking forward.
And it's that simple. She chose. Simple, but not easy. Jen, thank you for this.
Thank you, everybody. Until we meet again, you'll get the updates. You'll get the replays in a little while, and with links about where we can stay in touch. So, until we meet again, friends.